Good morning. My name is Miss Lindo here at Westport Junior Senior High School, and today we're going to be looking at how to find the slope of a line when given 2 points on that line. And so in our last class, we talked about how to find the slope when we were given a line that was graphed on a coordinate plane. And so that is often easy to find because we know our slope is just simply our rise over our run. But how do we determine that when we're given 2 points? So today our objective will be to find the slope of a line when we are simply given 2 points on that line. First, let's look at the steps we should take in order to determine what the slope is. So first, let's label one coordinate pair as x1 and y1. Second, let's label the other coordinate pair that we're given as x2 and y2. Then we're going to plug the values into the slope formula, which we'll look at on the next slide. And then once we plug in those values, we're just going to subtract across and then simplify our formula. Let's take a look at the slope formula here. And so m is the letter that we use to represent the slope. And so m, or our slope, is going to be equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Alright, now let's try an example. So first, for number 1, we said that our first step would be to label one of the coordinate pairs as x1 and y1. Second, we're going to label the other coordinate pair as x2 and y2. And remember that the x's always come first in our coordinate pairs, and that it's also important that we keep our 1's together for the same coordinate pair and our 2's together for the same coordinate pair. Now realistically, I could have labeled this one as x2 and y2, and this one as x1 and y1. It doesn't matter as long as I keep my numbers together and I have my x's come before my y's. So we did steps 1 and 2, and now we need to plug it in to our formula. So our formula is m equals y2, so y2 is going to be 3 minus y1, y1 is 1, divided by x2, which is 4, minus x1, which in this case is 1. And so then once we do that, our very last step is just to subtract across and then simplify. So 3 minus 1 is going to give us 2, and then 4 minus 1 will give us 3. And in this case, we didn't have to simplify. So our final answer is that our slope, or we could say m, equals 2 over 3. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other examples of how we can find the slope using 2 different points. So for this next example, notice how we have negative numbers in our coordinate pairs. And so this may impact our slope, and our slope may become negative. And we know that if we have a negative slope, that our line will decline from left to right. So let's just follow our steps again. So our first step was to label one set of coordinate pairs as x1 and y1. Let's do that. So x1 and y1. And then our step 2 was to label the other coordinate pair as x2 and y2. So x2 and y2. And again, doesn't matter which coordinate pair you pick as to be the 1's and the other to be the 2's, but just making sure that you keep those together. Step 3 was to plug the values into the slope formula. So we're going to write m equals, and then here you can see we are going to use y2, which is negative 2, minus y1, which is negative 4, divided by x2, which is 10, minus
x1, which in this case is a -2, minus a -2. And so you can see we have to be careful because our equation calls for subtraction, but then we also have negative numbers. So when we do this, if we have -2 minus a -4, it's the same as really adding a +4. So -2 plus 4 is just going to be +2 over 10 minus a -2 is the same as adding a +2. So 10 plus 2 is simply going to give us 12. And so even though in our coordinate pairs we had a negative number in both of them, actually we had one in the x and one in the y, our slope is still positive. So that's important to note here as well. And then lastly, although we subtracted, we also have to simplify. So we can of course simplify this by dividing both the top and the bottom by 2. And when we do that, we would get 1/6 as our slope. Now that we've done some examples together, I want you to go into the Google Classroom and do numbers 3 through 12 on your own. Once you've completed the assignment, make sure you take a picture of your work and then upload that into the Google Classroom to receive credit. We will go over it first thing tomorrow in class. Thank you so much for watching.